How did you first become interested in Buddhism?
I was 18. At that point, I was a nominal Catholic, raised a Catholic. And I came across, very luckily, on a PBS channel, back when PBS really was interested in doing something good and interesting and enlightening and educative. I came across a program on Buddhism, series on Buddhism, spoken by Alan Watts, who I've since got a lot of books. I played tapes on a radio show from him on an old radio show that I used to have in Montpelier, or Plainfield. And basically what Buddhism taught to me and caused me to excommunicate myself from the Catholic religion in my early 20s was that the entire arrangement of Western philosophy and government is based on this pyramid of power with a strong man at the top and the people below crushed by the people at the top. And in Buddhism, actually, that entire pyramid is flattened, and it's all a colossal equality. You learn to see everything as equal, and it is, and not superior or inferior. And that includes other than the strong man at the top of the pyramid of power, which is what all governments in the West are based on, and unfortunately the East, which has learned from the West, a lot of bad things. What's taught is that, well, I'm repeating myself, that is a bad thing. We need to have an individual realization of basically you are the equal of the whole, which is to say what used to be called God. God is the name that people who follow their God, God is the name that they give to the self they think is outside them. We think the power is all outside us, but as Jesus tried to explain to people, the kingdom of heaven is within. Of course, they killed him for saying this and then deified him, which is the opposite of what he was trying to say, which is don't kowtow to authority. You individually are your own spiritual authority, and you are your own political authority. There is no Lord over you. There is no master over you. You're it. In the Hindu way of thinking of it, you're it, meaning you're God.
So you would identify Jesus as a philosopher or politician, but not the Son of God, right?
He actually said, I am a son of God. In the King James Version of the Bible,
only in the sense that we're all sons of God.
That was changed to I am the Son of God. In the original Greek, he said, I am a son of God. And when he said that in the New Testament, he was trying to stop a crowd from stoning a woman. And he interfered. This is how the story went. And they started dumping on him, I think stoning him or something. And he said, how dare you blaspheme that you are the Son of God? And he responded, I am a son of God, which back then meant in the nature of God. Like, son of a bitch, son of God. It doesn't mean that you're the son of, it means you're in the nature of. And that's what he was trying to get across. And he said, it even says in the Old Testament, Isaiah, he pointed out, does it not say in your book that ye are gods? And it does. It says in the Jewish Bible that we're all each gods. They had a really better understanding than we do of how they thought. And Jesus was trying to impress upon people, stop kissing the butt of authority. You don't need to do that. You're it. You're all the authority you need. You don't need a church. You don't need bosses. You don't need a master. You don't need a government. You
He
don't
said,
need
"Give
it."
unto Caesar
As far as, well, that, yeah, he did. But that, I believe, was added when Emperor Constantine took over or adopted Christianity as the church. He couldn't have this basic Jesus message going on like, don't obey the government, because he was the government and he was a tyrant and a pig, like most of our wonderful leaders. And so he made sure that there was something that Jesus supposedly said that would give the government a pass, so that people could sort of follow Jesus but not be against the government, the leaders of the government. As Jesus back then, the Hebrew establishment was the government, not the Romans. I'm talking about their organic government was the Hebrew priesthood. They didn't have people who were above it. The kings that they had were part of it. The Romans came in and overlaid that with Roman rule, which is why, again, Constantine made sure that there was that, quote, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, meaning pay your taxes, which is slavery in a sense. Jesus never preached slavery. That was what he was about. At any rate, none of this is followed by Christians, or very little.
Well, let's get back to Buddhism.
Yes.
Do you go to a Buddhist temple now in Bennington?
Well, actually, if you're a Buddhist, it's really the wrong word, because you don't want to be an ist. You want to be an individual. And what I like to tell people is that, the legendary Buddha said this or that, not Buddha as some sort of god or leader or anything like that, because those preachings that he gave, the legendary Buddha, were against all of that, just like very similar to Jesus. And what he tried to teach is everything is within. So we are each our own temple. I have a little organization that I call the Temple of the Pranavasta, which is a Hindu term that means forest dweller, which is generally where the elderly go in India after they've retired. They retire to a forest where they become sort of divorced from the day-to-day work of the community or whatever. And they're in theory are to use their forest dwelling as a way to enrich themselves spiritually and get into what they didn't do when they were younger. That's generally what happens with people spiritually, is that as they get older, they get more spiritual because you have more time to think. You've lived a long life or whatever, and you see the problems, and you begin to see some more solutions to the problems that are outside, technicalities of governance or things like that. And you learn, if you're a Buddhist, you learn that there is no authority over you. It's a very powerful realization.